This case just flipped. The $250 million bomb everyone's yelling about wasn't fired at Blake Lively, it was Justin Baldoni suing the New York Times. Meanwhile, Blake is the one suing Baldoni, and the judge just smacked down a stunt that tried to turn her deposition into a public circus. Today, new filings hit the court, and we're about to see who's bluffing and who's bleeding. Here's the short version to get you current. Blake Lively says Baldoni and his team ran a smear campaign after she reported on-set harassment during their movie. Baldoni denies it, fired back with giant lawsuits, and tried to swing the narrative with leaked docs and chatter. Judges keep telling him to chill. Blake keeps winning small, steady rulings. The big trial is set for next year, but the battle for receipts is happening right now. Let's talk about the $250 million number, because that's the headline you're seeing. Baldoni filed that amount against the New York Times over an article that included Blake's claims. He said it was false and damaging. The court tossed it. Same day, his $400 million defamation and extortion suit against Blake, Ryan Reynolds, and her publicist also got dismissed. That's not drama talk. That's a judge's gavel. So if you've heard $250 million against Blake, that's spin. The number is real. The target wasn't her, so what's actually active? Blake's case? She says Baldoni and his camp retaliated, weaponized PR, and tried to break her image. We've seen the pattern: rumors seeded on gossip pages, selectively leaked messages, and loud gotcha filings stuffed with color instead of law. It looks messy on purpose. That's the point of a smear. You make noise so the audience forgets who's on offense. The judge just signaled he's over the noise. Baldoni's team uploaded almost 300 pages from Blake's deposition to the public docket. It read like a press packet, not a legal move. The court struck it. Translation: stop chasing headlines with court filings. That is a serious rebuke. Blake wanted it sealed. The judge agreed. You don't get that unless the judge sees games being played. And here's where things get spicier. Blake's side says details of that private deposition leaked in near real time. What she wore, who walked in with her, tiny color notes, stuff that would only matter to fans and blogs. The timing looked intentional. It told a story. Blake arrives with an army, Baldoni arrives humble. That's PR theater. It's not proof by itself, but it smells like campaign work, not courtroom work. Now, you've probably seen claims that Blake is gagging creators. That line is flying. The fuller picture: her legal team subpoenaed over 100 online accounts they believe were part of an organized campaign to push narratives and spread selective leaks. One of them was a tiny YouTuber who posted commentary and said she felt bullied. The subpoena got dropped after pushback. But the message landed: Blake's side is hunting the pipeline of a coordinated smear. That's brutal optics, but it also signals how serious they are about tracing the network. Let's rewind to where this started. On that set, the vibe got ugly. Blake reportedly complained about lines, scenes, and boundaries, and says Baldoni ignored red flags. Friction turned into HR language, and HR language turned into filings. Then, the off-camera war started. Baldoni's agency cut ties, statements flew, screenshots surfaced, blogs ate, and the feed never slept. Baldoni then launched his counteroffensive. First, a huge suit against Blake and her circle, then the $250 million shot at the New York Times. He pushed timelines, texts, and long submissions to contextualize everything. That's the move. Flood the zone. It's a classic trial by press. If people are arguing about narrative, they're not reading the footnotes, but courts read footnotes. And when those suits got dismissed, it wasn't a vibe check. It was law. The judge said the claims didn't meet the standard, and a bunch of the argument belonged to PR, not a courtroom. That is devastating, because now the record says defamation case dismissed. You don't unring that bell. So how did we get to today? After the dismissals, Blake's case kept rolling. Depositions scheduled, protective orders negotiated. Both sides fought over what stays sealed and what goes public. Then came the 292-page deposition dump. The judge nuked it from the public docket. And he warned again about trying to litigate in the media. Right now, there's a procedural beat that most viewers miss, but insiders watch like hawks: deadlines. When a judge tells the other side, file your opposition by X date, that's the moment the machine spits out a new batch of receipts, texts, emails, timelines, anything they can legally attach to argue their point. That is, why today matters. Expect a fresh packet. Expect spin about what it proves. Expect rebuttals within days. Let's get into the alleged smear campaign, because this is the core of Blake's case. She says, after she reported harassment and pushed for boundaries, Baldoni's camp lit the fuse. whisper stories to gossip pages, drip insider tidbits, and frame her as a diva derailing a message movie. How do you prove that? You build the chain, you show who had the documents, you show where they traveled, you show a timing pattern: complaint, then rumor, filing, then headline, deposition, then leak. If she proves a pattern, that's not just embarrassing, it's liability. What about the leaked texts and emails? Both sides have cited digital receipts. Baldoni filed a huge timeline with messages he says save him. Blake's side says those messages actually show a pressure machine where he tried to sideline her, then trash her. The truth probably lives in how a judge reads context: who had power, who set the tone, who ignored a clear boundary. A text means nothing until it's placed next to another text, a call log, and a date on a filing. Then a picture forms. And yes, there's a celebrity crossover twist. Blake's team fought to keep her messages with Taylor Swift private. The court said some of that might be discoverable. Baldoni even tried to drag Pop World into the orbit by claiming there was pressure from celebrity friends. Most of that theater got swatted away, but it shows how fame amplifies everything. When regular people fight, it's emails and HR. When A-listers fight, it's headlines and algorithms. Let's talk fan energy, because that's the oxygen of a smear. Public opinion isn't a jury, but it kills careers. If you're painted as the manipulative one, deals pause, brands ghost, and press gets cold. Blake's image is polished and powerful. Baldoni built a good guy rep from previous projects. Both had reputations to lose. That's why the smear claim is lethal. If a court says, yes, this was retaliation and a PR hit job, that's not just damages, that's a stain that sticks. Now, the mid-video twist you came for, there's a quiet line in the docket that matters. The court scheduled filings due today. That means if Baldoni's side thinks they can swing momentum, this is the last clean window before Blake's reply slams the door. That is when we see whether the leaked texts and emails are smoke or fire. If there's a big reveal, it lands now. If there's nothing, that silence will say more than any thread. Let's break the hero versus villain frame. Hero here is Blake. Why? Because she took the slower, riskier path. Formal complaints, legal filings, and pushing for sealed testimony when the noise got out of control. Villain is Baldoni. Why? Because the court has already tossed his mega suits and warned him about media tactics. He may disagree. He has the right to deny everything. But court wins and court losses are the only scoreboard that counts in the end. Does this mean Blake has already won? Not yet. Trials are long, discovery is brutal, and the internet never forgets. If there are messages that hurt her, they'll surface. If there are messages that bury him, they'll surface. That's why both sides fight so hard over what stays sealed. A single screenshot can rack up 100 million impressions by morning. There's also the human piece. Cast and crew stuck between them. People who just wanted to make a movie are now witnesses. Nobody enjoys that. And every leak, every exclusive, drags fresh names into a fight they never asked for. That's collateral damage. Courts hate it. Jurors hate it more. What's next? We watch today's drop, we watch Blake's reply in a couple of days, and we watch the judge's patience. Judges signal when they've had enough. The deposition smackdown was a signal. If more press bait filings hit, expect sharper orders. Sanctions are not off the table when a court thinks you're using the docket for clout. And if you think this is just celebrity drama, think bigger. This is about who controls the story when someone reports misconduct: HR, a court, or a PR machine. If Blake proves retaliation and a smear, that's case law with teeth. If Baldoni disproves it and shows exaggeration, that's a different warning shot. Don't weaponize allegations as leverage. Either way, the precedent ripples past this feud. The internet piece is the last frontier. Subpoenas to creators sound awful, and they are scary. But if a campaign really used micro-creators as message amplifiers, passing talking points, seeding docs, timing posts with filings, that's a pipeline a court can trace. We've never had a high-profile case test that fully. This might be the one. So when you see claims that Blake is trying to silence critics, hold two ideas at once. 1. Creators shouldn't be bullied. 2. If a creator is part of a coordinated smear, that's not criticism. That's participation. The law treats those differently. That's why this is a tightrope, and why today's filings matter. They'll try to map the rope. When the dust settles, the outcome won't be decided by whoever landed the best headline. It'll come down to a few core receipts: who sent what, who timed what, and who benefited. That's why we live inside the inbox now. The truth is often one timestamp away. Blake said she wanted the noise turned down and the evidence turned up. The judge just helped her do exactly that by striking the deposition circus. If her team keeps stacking clean wins like this, the narrative flips from celeb drama to accountability with paperwork. That's a very different story than the clickbait suggests. And if you're asking where we stand with receipts. We stand with actual rulings. We stand with the boring parts that decide careers, because the boring parts are the ones that stick. Today's deadline will either add signal or add noise. If it's signal, you'll hear it here first. If it's noise, the court will mute it soon enough. Until then, remember the scoreboard. Blake is advancing her case. Baldoni's megasuits are gone. The judge is policing the circus. And the public is finally learning the difference between a headline and a court order. That's why this episode matters more than the last dozen gossip clips you've seen on your feed. We'll keep it simple. If you're running a smear and a judge can map it, you pay. If you're telling the truth and the court sees it, you win. That's the game. That's the stage. And that's what today's filings will start to lock in. Stick around for the highlights. We'll pull the key lines, the dates, and the names you need to understand the next move. And we'll do it without the circus. That's a promise. Villain aimed to destroy hero, but ultimately destroyed themselves.